Hi, this is Alpesh Patel. Welcome to How to Invest Better, the multimedia audio-visual CD-ROM series that I've produced. You're on CD-ROMs 1, 2, and 3. This is the very start of it, obviously. Reading stock charts and making trading systems with skill. Now, some initial points. First of all, you're going to come across this chap, this arrow, which you can see. That's what I'm going to use to highlight things on the chart. Let's just kick off then with what we've got here and how we plan to progress. I'm going to go through quite a few different topics for the next few minutes, and I just want to highlight some of the key elements that we will be covering. Well, what are they? First of all, you have, for instance, which are the right, proven and wrong popular ways to pick stocks. The stock theories the best managers use, how you can apply them, and so forth. I'm not going to read through all of that. What I suggest is, at any point if there's bits on screen that you want to pause over and read, then do just press pause on the video player. Now, these are not the only topics which we're going to cover over the next few moments. For instance, we are going to go through the other benefits of this CD-ROM, specifically, again, listing through them, techniques I use to beat every other stock picker on Bloomberg, 5 techniques to raise your success rates in picking stock, all sorts of other things. And actually, it's not just 7 chart patterns that consistently work. I'm going to be mentioning a few more than that, and similarly with the signs that the markets are about to trade. Now, this is the accumulated knowledge of many years of trading, but also dealing with traders. And that's what I do for a living. I trade. So a lot of this information is actually and has actually been put through practice, and that's supposed to be the added benefit that goes with all of this. So let's crack on. I know I'm moving at a fair pace, but there's a reason for that. We have a heck of a lot of material to cover. And again, the good thing about having something like this on CD-ROM, you can go back, you can rewind, you can go through it again. The other point I'd raise is, first and foremost, well, what's our vision statement? What's our mission statement? These things tend to be in vogue. Shouldn't we as traders, as people who are looking to trade, shouldn't we have one as well? Well, first of all, in terms of our vision statement, what do we want to be? That's the question. Well, there's 3 M's. That's what I call them, the 3 M's. This is what we need. We need to be proficient in method, money, and mind. Well, okay, fine, wonderful jargon. What does it actually mean in reality? What it actually means is we need to fully understand money management, the mind, trader psychology, and method, stock picking techniques. Well, obviously, as you can imagine with this CD-ROM set, we're focusing on method. Those are the elements which will allow us to pick stocks better. What does that mean as part of the bigger picture? Well, again, you can see from the picture here, money management, trading system, trading psychology. Put all 3 together, you've got profits. We're at the moment focus more on the trading system aspect or method aspect. What happens in a typical trade process? Well, one of the things that happens is, as you get more and more experience, you realize that you should have a trade process, that it is composed of many, many different things put in together. What we're doing, and what I want you to remember as we go through this, is we're looking at a process. We're going to be scanning for criteria. That's how do we find stocks that we might like? What indicators should we look at? What about the trend? What about other criteria? What kind of software should we be using? That then, once we've scanned for stocks using our particular criteria, that then leads us into evaluating them. How do we evaluate a particular stock or a potential trade for profitability, or the probability of it rising and doing well? How do we then go into the next stage, which is maybe look at some of the news, some of the fundamentals? My website has news for free, for instance, alpeshpatel.com. It's all free on there in terms of the information and data. What about trade executions? How do we know when to enter? How do we know what types of orders we should be placing? Once we've done that, where should we go to monitor these things? And at the end of it, how do we put all this together? Well, if you think that trading is a process, and these are the various processes we're going through, some of the things we're going to be looking at in this one are the criteria. How do we scan for stocks? What are the criteria we should use? What are the indicators, the trends? How do we then evaluate the various trades? That's 2 of the key things we're going to be focusing on in this. We are going to touch on some of the other trade processes, as indeed we do in the other CD-ROMs. But for this one in particular, those are the 2 areas: scan criteria, evaluation, and a little bit of execution is involved there as well. And I'll touch only very briefly on the other criteria in the trading process. So, moving on. How do we get ideas? How do I, as an experienced investor, use charts? Well, that's what we're going to kick off with, which will hopefully save you a lot of time and a lot of money as you go forward. I love this quote from Will Rogers, by the way. Don't gamble, buy some good stock, hold it until it goes up, and then sell it. If it doesn't go up, don't buy it. Fantastic advice, indeed. If only it was that simple. Well, let's start with, what's the rationale of charts? Why do we look at price charts at all? And I'll show you what price charts are in a second. But what's the point? Well, the rationale is that trading psychology, the whole market psychology, is in actual fact within a price chart. Whatever the price is, whether the stock is oversold, and I'll explain this term later, or whether it's overbought, the whole market psychology represents the price. People are putting their money where their mouth is. And that's actually the most important piece of information we can ever have. That's why we look at charts. We're also trying to anticipate, don't worry about the jargon, inductive reasoning. What we're trying to say is, if something has happened on a price chart 10 times in the past, and 7 times out of those 10, after it's happened, the price has risen 10%. Well, surely that suggests the next time this pattern happens, this price chart positioning happens, it's going to happen again, the 10% rise, 7 times out of 10 at least. And that's why we look at charts. But charts can also give us an advance warning that things are about to turn. And that's another reason why we're going to look at them. And I'm going to show you some of the tricks and some of the patterns that work really well. And that's whether you're an experienced trader or otherwise. Charts also have a very important role in probability. What we're saying here is, a chart doesn't tell you for certain, oh, if you do this, you're always going to make money no matter what. That would be stupid. It would be ridiculous. And if anybody ever promises you that, slap them and then walk away. What the point is with a chart is that it gives you the odds. There's a probability of 70% or so forth that something's going to happen again. Not a certainty, but a probability. So we want to look at high probabilities of patterns leading to price moves. That's what we want to definitely look at. But also, what happens with charts is they give you the opportunity to have a professional approach. The preponderance of evidence, oh, I know it sounds pompous, well, I did used to be a barrister before I got into trading. What I mean by this is, we want to look at certain price patterns and other things which give us a lot of evidence that something is about to happen to a particular stock. Either it's going to move up or move down. We're looking for as much evidence as possible, and I'm going to highlight what that evidence is. What I also want you to remember, as I've already said with charts, is that there are no certainties. We are looking at odds. We're hoping that 7 times out of 10, something's going to happen. And these price patterns give us that 7 times out of 10. I also, with all of my charting, want people to realize that complexity is not the answer. A lot of people say, oh, but that's too simple. Well, actually, if we keep it simple, stupid, that's what KISS stands for, it wasn't a proposition, then we managed to keep it fun and easy. And as some of you will know, I won the Financial Times competition to predict the FTSE 100. I've won Bloomberg competitions, Channel 4 competitions on stock picking. And to be honest, I kept it fairly simple. I didn't do what all the overpaid analysts do, and yet I outperformed them. Well, that's part of why we're here. That's part of why we're looking at some of these elements. And we're not going to be chasing for some holy grail of trying to be 100% correct. Guess what? It doesn't actually exist. Not only that, charting has an advantage over fundamental analysis. Fundamental analysis is when you look at accounts. It's when you're looking at all the detailed, boring stuff that you have to read. The advantage of charts is you're looking at something graphical. Now, why is that an advantage? Well, I'll tell you how I got into charting to begin with. Is I wanted to spend a lot of my spare time on Sundays not sitting in front of a computer reading annual reports. And a charting system allows me to go through 100 of the FTSE 100 stocks in about 10 minutes, narrow down that I want to focus on maybe 5 of them in more detail and spend, say, 10 minutes each on those 5, and then spend about 20 minutes on my final 2 and maybe invest in just one of them. That's the whole purpose of the whole charting system. You're able to scan through quickly. Can you imagine reading the annual reports of about 100 odd stocks? Of course you can't. Well, that's the first 10 minutes or so covered. It's very introductory. That's the first chapter. Next, click on the next chapter, and that takes us onto the next bit. Like I said, I've broken this down into 10 minutes or so chunks because then it's easier to digest, and if there's bits that you don't want to go over again, you don't need to try and rewind and try and find them. So that's all for this part, and I'll see you shortly.